It's no secret that people 25 and under, or Gen Z, spend the most time on social media. And a recent study shows that higher social media use is associated with poorer well-being. Mills Hayes shows us how some are trying to save young people from their smartphones.
You can check just how much time you spend on your phone per day by going to your settings. Mine says that I've spent about 3.5 hours per day on average, but I spoke with some Gen Zers who tell me they spend about triple the amount of time on their phones.
Embarrassingly, I spend probably like 6 hours average a day on my phone.
I would say 9 hours of the day.
And it's kind of like atrocious. Some days it's like 11 hours.
The McKinsey study shows 35% of young people around the world say they spend more than 2 hours a day on one thing.
Just a lot of social media, yeah.
Across generations, people report more positive than negative impacts of social media.
Connecting with different people that you probably, you'd never meet, in real life.
It can be kind of fun to just curate yourself in a way that is very how you want it to be, which is kind of cool.
But 27% of Gen Z reports a negative impact, more than any other generation.
It impacts me socially. I'd be talking to someone and then immediately want to go on my phone at some point.
It's a trap. It's very easy to get caught up in it, and I have, especially looking at myself and comparing myself to other people. It's not fun.
The study found most of the negativity revolves around fear of missing out, body image, and self-confidence. In Minnesota, nonprofit Live More, Screen Less received state funding to work with teens and young adults on digital well-being.
I had a front row seat to seeing the changes that technology brought into the classroom in positive ways, but then also the role that it played in the mental health of my students.
We are not anti-tech. We are about how do you thrive in this digital age.
Live More Screen Less says that they hope to expand to all schools and after-school programs in Minnesota and maybe across the country one day. But they also say that the burden to help young adults and teens falls on parents, many whom gave their preteens smartphones without any kind of guidance on how to not get addicted to them. In Minneapolis, Mills Hayes, Fox News.
It was an epic winter for Yosemite National Park. Snow totals smashed records, with one storm dumping up to 15 feet, and all the snow even shut down the park. Now, scientists say all that snow has placed a pause on the melt of Yosemite's rapidly disappearing glaciers. Max Gordon joins us from Yosemite National Park to explain.
What a gorgeous backdrop. Now, what you see behind me was actually formed in part by glaciers. Back around 20,000 years ago, Yosemite National Park was covered in a sheet of ice around 2,000 feet thick. That ice slowly moved along and formed the valley that you can see back there. Today, the earth is warmed and only 5 small glaciers remain in and around Yosemite National Park. They've been studied since John Muir first explored the region back in 1872, and since 1883, when the USGS took measurements of these glaciers, they've lost around 90% of their mass. Glaciers form when snowfall accumulates in an area and forms into a permanent field of ice flowing outward and downward. Scientists here at Yosemite say that in the past few decades, warmer temperatures and periods of drought have been melting the remaining glaciers at a rapid pace, with warmer nights leading to longer periods of melt-off. This winter's record snowpack has pressed the pause button on their rapid melt, but climate trends point toward these glaciers eventually disappearing.
I've heard people compare it to visiting a loved one in the hospital, and you know that they're terminal. And I'm a geologist. I tend to think of things a little more scientifically, but there are times where it kind of feels like that, that this thing that I know really well and I care about, it's disappearing before my eyes.
Scientists here say that the Kenness Glacier will likely be the first one to go in the next 5 to 10 years. It's unclear what happens when these glaciers start to disappear in and around Yosemite National Park, because they're a crucial source of water, especially in the late summer months when there isn't any melting snowpack left. At Yosemite National Park, Max Gordon, Fox Weather.
Stay with us. We'll have more coming up.